quickly, let's get into this content so I can help you to validate your profitable, hopefully profitable, that is the key, business ideas. Okay, so it looks like I can see my screen, looks like I'm on. I think you can probably hear me and see me as well. So let's get into it. This session is called Go, No Go. Again, this is something that I teach and that I help my mentees with in my Ready Start Launch program. If you're watching this video, you're in the right place. If you think you have a profitable business idea, but you're not sure, if you don't want to pour your time, energy, and money into an idea that won't pay off, then I think you'll find a lot of value out of this short session today. And if you don't want to quit your job for a business venture that you can't bank on, because let's admit that's a little scary, then I think you'll get a lot of value out of what I'm going to share with you today. So for those of you that are maybe joining for the first time and maybe not know who I am, my name is Quisha Umemba. I am a registered nurse and public health consultant. I'm the CEO of Umemba Health LLC, which is a public health education and consulting agency. We actually have two arms of our business, the consulting side of the house and the education side of the house, where Umemba Health Academy is housed. That's our virtual campus for community health workers, CHW instructors, and other frontline public health professionals. At Umemba Health, we help healthcare systems and public health organizations to educate their frontline workforce, empower their leaders, and expand their community presence. And we do that so that hopefully they can elevate the lives of the individuals and communities they serve. I am also the face and brand behind Quisha Umemba Consulting, where my primary focus there is to help public health leaders, emerging entrepreneurs, and what I like to call helping professionals learn how to monetize their skill set so that they can make impact and income. 11 months ago, I left a corporate training job for actually just to run my business full time. I've not looked back since. I absolutely love every single day in what I do. And I'm super excited that I now, under QU Consulting, get to help other people do the same as well. So again, today's training is on business idea validation. And why is business idea validation important? There's a number of different reasons. One, it helps you create and offer services that people actually want, things that are actually in demand. Newsflash, just because you build it doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to come. And I'll give you an example of a couple of times when I built something and thought that they would just come because I built it and it was there. It doesn't work like that. So you have to vet these ideas, these potential solutions, to make sure it is something that people actually want. Secondly, business idea validation helps you identify who you're going to serve, but even more importantly, who's going to pay you for those services. And if you didn't know, it's not always the same entity. It's not always the same individual. I'll give you an example. A lot of what we do with Umemba Health is training workforce, doing workforce development for individuals that are in public health, primarily community health workers, but we also train medical assistants, pharmacy techs, nurses, etc. Those individuals aren't the people that pay me, right? I'm paid by the health department. I'm paid by the nonprofit. I'm paid by the clinic, the agency, whatever that is. And so when you vet your ideas, when you validate your ideas, it helps you identify not only who you're going to serve, but again, more importantly, who's going to pay you for those services. And then last, it really helps you gain perspective on how to properly execute a business idea as well. One of the things that you need to do as you're doing business idea validation is really think through every single thing that you're going to need to get started with that proposed solution or service. And when you do business idea validation, it really helps for you to be able to understand exactly what you need to put into place to be successful. So here's a secret, or actually, I actually shared the secret. You're great and all, but just because you're great and you exist and you have skill sets in, XYZ, fill in the blank, whatever that is, doesn't mean that just because you develop, create a program, initiative, service, solution, product, whatever, that people are going to be knocking down your door to try to buy it. I went to go work as a chief nurse in the Houston Health Department. And after about 3 years, I thought, if I can do this here, I know I can do this for myself. And so I am a registered nurse. I have my MPH. I'm also a certified diabetes care and education specialist. And once I got a taste of program administration and developing and evaluating programs, I thought, well, I'll do this on my own. I created a company that was based around providing diabetes education. It was called Diabetes Pros. I was in business for 1 year and I made $700. I didn't know how to market, didn't know how to promote. I spent entirely too long trying to build my website. I did all of these things. I bought business cards and flyers and all this stuff. And it wasn't worth it because I was not putting myself out there. I was not in front of my ideal client. Honestly, I didn't even have a target audience or an ideal client. I was still very much in the mindset of I can serve everybody, I can save everybody. And so I didn't even really niche down and narrow my focus into the type of client that I wanted to serve. The second example, so that was kind of my first attempt at business. I won't talk about my second attempt at business. That was a partnership with two other individuals, but we did chronic disease education consulting, and that was our business, CDEC, Chronic Disease Education Consultants. But my third attempt at business was Umemba Health. And for the 5 months of Umemba Health, I did not have the focus that I have right now. It was not public health education and consulting. It was chronic disease education consulting. And so majority of what I did was workshops and webinars surrounding or concerning diabetes, diabetes prevention, chronic kidney disease, and hypertension. And I did that for the first 5 months of my business. I didn't make any money. I would do workshops and webinars. And most of the time, there was nobody on the workshop or the webinar, or maybe, maybe my parents were there or my siblings were there. And I thought I had really good content at the time. I know now it was trash, but I thought I had really good messaging and really good services, and I didn't, because I did not do any kind of market assessment, market research, business idea validation. I was spinning my wheels. Thankfully, and I should not say this because I know that COVID-19 is not looked at as something positive. But I always like to say, as much of a dark cloud as the pandemic was, there was a silver lining in that cloud. One, it allowed me to pivot into something that's been very profitable for my business. And I've been able to thrive in that. And so, again, I did validate what I'm doing now and how I've pivoted toward the types of individuals that I now serve and the services that I have. But for the first 5 months, I did not do that. And so I want to help you avoid wasting that time and really thinking about these things before you implement them. So let's talk about the business idea validation session. Now, if you were to book a business idea validation session with me, this is how it would go. One, I would sit you in what's called the business hot seat. I would have you tell me your ideas, and I would ask you about 10 to 15 questions and then advise you on if your idea was a go or a no-go, okay? And so a go is your idea sounds profitable. I think, it's easy to implement. It makes sense. You've got a target market. The need provides a solution to, a potential challenge or barrier, thumbs up, way to go. And then we would talk about how you can get that idea off of the ground. Or I would give you a thumbs down and say, you know what, your idea really doesn't sound profitable. I think you'll go in the hole. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It lacks some clarity. You need to do a lot more research, whatever that looks like, so that I would advise you based on my expertise and my experience. Now, you at that time would then decide how you wanted to move forward or if you wanted to move forward. That's how those business idea validation sessions go. But let me tell you this before I get into, I think it's 8 questions that I really want you to think about as you're validating your business idea. I always have to give this disclaimer because I am a spiritual person, and whether you're a spiritual person or not, and you're listening to me, I think it's important for you to understand this. If God told you to do something, then his word is going to trump everything that I am going to share with you or that I might advise you to do. Because I am one of those people, I firmly believe that if he gave you a vision, he will give you the provision. And I say that based on experience. There's been times when I've done things that people didn't, necessarily think it was the best decision, or maybe they didn't understand it, didn't make sense to them. And that's because, my dreams and my visions that God gave to me are not meant to be understood by anyone else. They're only meant to be understood by me because it's my assignment. So I just want you to understand that my sole purpose, with what I'm sharing with you now, or with what I'm sharing, if you book a session with me and I share with you, it's going to be just unbiased, unemotional, unattached, uninvolved, no skin in the game advice based on my experiences, my failures, and ultimately my wins as someone that self-titles themselves a serial entrepreneur. And if not, I will be very, very soon. I'll say that. So that is what the point of a business idea validation session is. Now, at this point in the video or in the training is where I would open up to the group and say, let me hear those ideas, right? And I would put somebody in the hot seat and we kind of bounce back and forth and I ask those questions. I realize we don't have that time and we're not in that type of setting. So again, if you want to put your ideas in the comments, if you want to DM me your ideas, that's perfectly fine. When you do that, before you put them in the comments, before you send me those DMs, tell me a few things. Okay, I want to know your idea. I want to know the problem that you're trying to solve. I want to know who has that problem. And I want to know how big of an issue is it for them. Basically, what does it prevent them from doing or becoming or losing or saving, whatever that is. Okay, so I want you to tell me your problem, your idea, tell me the problem you're trying to solve. Tell me who has that problem and how big of an issue it is for them or what it's preventing them or keeping them from doing. Okay. So once you send me that information, then I will be able to provide you with some additional assistance. And then I want you to ask yourself these questions as well. So does your idea, this is number one, does your idea, solution, or service solve a problem? That's first and foremost. You cannot be a consultant if it does not solve a problem. I don't care if you're an educational consultant, your educational solutions have to solve a problem. There has to be a need for your training, right? I don't care if you're developing curriculum, same if you're doing some type of coaching, whatever it is, it has to solve a problem. And if it is not solving a problem, that is definitely not bankable. It is not profitable. Okay, that's first and foremost. Two, who will pay you for this service? If you do not have this figured out, do not move any further. Okay, you need to know who's going to pay you for this service. And you'll probably hear terms like B2B, B2C, B2G. That's business to business, which is my favorite. That's great. Business, B2G, business to government, and I have government contracts as well, or business to consumer, or I think maybe sometimes people say business to customer or something. That's individual. There is nothing wrong with getting paid from all of those. I have individual services, I have packages for government, and I have services for organizations as well. And so if you're smart, you actually will create services, programs, products, solutions, etc., that will attract individuals from all of those areas. You don't have to, but it does, how can I put this? It does make for a more sustainable business because you have different revenues of different streams of revenue that are coming in. So definitely who's going to pay you for the service. If you don't know, you got a lot of research that you need to do. Number three, have you researched individuals or organizations that already offer your program or your service? Okay. Is there a company or organization you're aware of that's offering something exactly like what you want to do or similar? What is it that you know about their business model? What is it that you know about the comparable services? Do they have any competitors? If so, what have you noticed about their competitors? Really do the research, because you don't want to create something that's exactly like someone else. You always want to be innovative and put your unique spin to it. But it's also okay if you want to do something that others are doing as well. It was my baby sister that reminded me a couple years ago, there are 30 different brands of bread at the grocery store, right, on the aisle. But every time you go to the grocery store, chances are you're going to get the same type of bread every single time. It could be because it's at a price point that you like. It could be because it's a texture or a flavor or whatever it is. So it's okay if you're doing something, providing a similar service that others are doing, because everybody's not going to flock to that one company or that one individual. There's always going to be something so unique about how you do it and how you say it, that's going to attract your ideal client. But make sure you're well versed in research on those individuals and organizations. Number 4, have you validated your idea with anyone? Have you tested it with family, with friends? Have you gotten any feedback about it? So I talked about the issues that I had with my previous businesses, right? Or even when I first started doing mental health, those first 5 months when I had a completely different direction than I do now, or a different focus. I validated that training with my dad, with my family. So I was doing diabetes education at the time, and my dad has type 2 diabetes. So I knew that, the information that I was sharing was valuable information because I was testing it out on audiences that were very close to me. You have to do this as well if you're validating your ideas. And so maybe you work, maybe you work public health or healthcare, and you don't really want to validate that with friends and family because they might not understand. Your peers and your colleagues are who you can go to and ask them questions about your proposed solutions and services, etc. But you want to get that feedback, because if they have questions about it, that's great. That's not derogatory. You want them to have questions about it because the questions are going to inform your quality improvement processes, right? They're going to give you things to think about that you hadn't even considered thinking about before. So make sure you start there when it comes to validation. Now, here's one of the questions I'll ask you, number 5, if we meet together for a session. I'm going to ask you, how much time will you need to devote to this business venture, to this idea, to this project, to this solution? And does it fit in the timeline of your plans? Okay. It's okay for you to have a solution that is profitable, but if it's going to drain you, suck the life out of you, take all of your time, and you don't have that time, then it's not something that I'm going to recommend you implement immediately. It might be something that you push off down the road, because what I have learned in the 3.5 years that I've done this with Member Health, now with the other businesses, but what I have learned is you always want to go for the low-hanging fruit first. And so many of you that are watching or listening, I know we're multi-passionate overachievers, right? We can save the world, we can do so many things, but just because you can do it doesn't mean that you should, right? Really devote your time and attention to those things that are going to make you money, that are going to develop partnerships, that are going to help increase the bottom line or sustain the business. And so that's one of the questions that I'm going to ask you, that I want you to think about as you're vetting your business ideas as well. Number 6, how much money will you need to start this new business venture, this idea that you're thinking about for your, proposed or your target, your ideal client is what I'm trying to say. How much money will you need for it? Because that's also going to determine if your return of investment is actually going to be beneficial. If you are going to have to come out of a lot of money on the top, but then your return is going to be slow or even uncertain, then it's probably not the best idea. If you are not going to come out with that much money, maybe you'll spend a lot of time doing it, but the back end investment is going to pay off. And I'll give you an example for this. I license my 160-hour CHW training curriculum now to organizations that don't want to spend the time creating a curriculum. They don't want to hire someone. They just don't want that headache and that frustration. It took me months to create that curriculum. We were already training CHWs. And so what we did over the course of about 10 to 12 months is we just created it in such a way, we basically built a train the trainer type of package, right? Everything is scripted. It's kind of a turnkey solution. The handouts are there. The PowerPoints are there. The lesson plans are there. And so as we were teaching it, we were doing all of these things, talking to the lawyer, doing the trademark, doing the copyright, because I knew, okay, it's taken me a long time now, not a whole bunch of money necessarily, because again, I had instructors who were already teaching this content, taking us a long time, but the payout from licensing the curriculum one time is going to be a really nice 5-figure salary. And so you have to really kind of look at weighing the pros and cons of like time and money and resources, investments, and different things like that. Okay. So, which leads me to number 7. What other things will you need to devote to this idea, to this business venture? In addition to money, in addition to your time, have you identified support? Have you identified resources? Are you going to need human capital? Are you going to need financial capital? All of those questions have to be taken into consideration. And again, start with the low hanging fruit. The low hanging fruit that's going to be the best bang for the buck, that's going to where you're going to end up seeing a profit sooner than later, is always what I'm going to recommend. Okay. And then last is number 8. This is the question that I'm going to ask you probably early on into the session. So this is something you definitely should be thinking about. Are you already in business, or are you just getting started? Now, this question, you're probably like, Quisha, I don't understand. What does that have to do with anything? It's a lot easier if you're already in business to have another revenue generating idea, or to implement rather another revenue generating idea when you're already in business. It's not as easy to do that if you're just getting started, because when you're just getting started, you have all of these ideas, you want to do all of these things, and you really don't know which one is going to be the profitable idea yet, most of the time anyway. Some of you will, but most of the time. However, if you're already in business, chances are you've got your business tools, your apps, your technology, your workflows, your processes. You may have a virtual assistant. You might have a subcontractor already. There's so many other things that are already in place that you can use to help put you in a better position quicker with your new business idea. Now, I'm coming up on my 30 minutes. I know I'm talking really, really fast. Let me look and see if I have any comments in here. Again, say good morning. Oh, great. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining. Like I said, I'm talking really fast this morning because I only have 30 minutes to do this, but I wanted to get this information out about how to validate your business ideas. Now, before I end this session, and again, if you have any questions, now is the time to put them in the chat. I want to invite you all to a free webinar that I am hosting Wednesday, June the 14th. It's called Build, Launch, and Scale Your Public Health Consulting Business. If you have at least 3 years of experience as in the healthcare field, public health field, or wellness, if you're a wellness professional, I think this will be a really good resource for you. If you've worked in government, in healthcare, in nonprofits, in educational institutions, or a combination of those, I think this would be really valuable for you. And especially if you're ready to take the leap, you want to either start a side hustle, freelancing as a public health consultant, or you want to, do exactly what I'm doing and sign your own damn checks, which is what I like to say. But basically, you want to monetize your skill set, your knowledge, your education, all of that stuff that you got all those hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loans for, then I invite you to sign up and join. I actually have the QR code here, so I'll pop it on the screen for you there. Some things that I'm going to be talking about during that session, of course, what exactly is a public health consultant, how to become one, the different types of consulting models. For instance, I've historically run a solo or independent model, but I'm thinking about transitioning into more of a firm type model. We'll talk about things like that. We'll talk about how to craft your services and your business solutions, some other things as well, but ultimately why now is the best time for you to build, launch, and scale your public health consultancy. I'll even leave you with a roadmap to launch. Even if you're not available to join us at that time, Wednesday, June the 14th at 6 p.m., I recommend that you go ahead and register for it anyway. I will be sending out the replay for anyone that can join. And then last, before I leave, I've got another QR code here that I'm going to put on the screen.